technically won the championship. Ferguson, can you blame the man for going out of his mind temporarily?
Hi everybody, how you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Sunday night. After a couple of weeks off, we're back and we're going to try and bring you shows all the way through to the season kickoff in August. So how you doing? How's all things? What we're going to basically do tonight is we're just going to catch up with all the news that's coming out of Pittodrie. A little bit later, I got a little soundbite from Yimi Tulane from a longer interview that he gave to the club's TV channel recently while they've been away in Portugal. Going to catch up with all the summer signings as well. I've got news of a very special interview coming on the channel in the coming days. I'm conducting a very important interview on Wednesday. I've got details about that. But this is about your chance to get in touch and tell us how you're doing and tell us what you think of all the summer signings. Tell us what you think about the new strip, because I have caught up with former Chief Executive Officer of the football club, Duncan Fraser. And Duncan talked me through the whole process of manufacturing, designing and receiving new kits. It was really interesting and opened my eyes to many things. So I'll bring that to you a little bit later. Now, you've probably noticed one or two subtle little changes. We have a new microphone. We have a new USB portal so that I can add more stuff to the studio. That is thanks to your contributions. At the end of last season, many of you contributed to the channel financially. And I always promised and I always said that whatever people contribute to this channel will go straight back into the channel. So thanks to you, I've been able to invest in a new microphone and a couple of other bits as well. We're also going to be we're also going to be investing in new graphics, which is all going to be put in place for the start of the new season. So we're going to make subtle little changes here and there. So thank you for everybody that contributed financially to the channel towards the end of last season. I know that many of you continue to pay the membership scheme, which I'm extremely grateful for. And again, everything that goes from that goes straight back into this channel. Your contributions mean a great deal to me, so thank you very much. So, more news coming out of the football club today, and it was good news because we've added another new signing. French midfielder Adil, oh gosh, I don't know, I've got no idea how to pronounce this dude's name, but he's joined on a season-long loan from Sunderland. He's 22 years old. He plays in the number 10 role, and he was a teammate of Kusini Yengi, who was at Portsmouth, of course, last season. Kusini, of course, has also signed on, the Australian international. He arrived on a free transfer from Portsmouth, and it goes to other signings like goalkeeper Nick Surman, who has come in to replace Ross Duhan. Highly rated Icelandic youth international Kjartan Ma Kjartansson also joined recently, as well as highly rated left-back German youth international Emmanuel Giamfi. So lots of new changes to the club. It's looking really, really good so far. Delighted with the business. And what I would suggest now is maybe one more striker, maybe. I see some of you have put a team out already to what you think will be a team. I think a few people, though, are forgetting some of the players that we've already got in place. Let me quickly tell you about a sponsorship renewal here on the channel. I was delighted that my long-term sponsors, Saltire Energy, have renewed their sponsorship with the channel for another 12 months. Their contribution and support to this project has never ever gone unnoticed. My thanks to Mike Logie and to Craig Cameron, who continue to support me here on the channel. And I'm extremely grateful to everybody at Saltire Energy who continued to support me. It was fantastic news that came during the week. I was chuffed to bits. Right, let's get Duncan Fraser on. So, what did you think of the new kit? I put a post out and it was very much a mixed reaction. It was almost like Marmite. I have to say, it's grown on me, but I'm still not 100% convinced. I think it looks more like a sort of a leisurely, out for the weekend, out for a stroll type of top that you would wear. But a lot of people have assured me that once they've actually bought it, got it on, looked at it in real life, it's 100 times better. So one of the first things that struck me was the design. The second thing that struck me was I wondered if they missed a trick by not putting a sort of an embroiderment of Scottish Cup winners. So it got me thinking. And I saw a really interesting post by our former CEO, Duncan Fraser, on LinkedIn. And that post prompted me to get in touch with Duncan to ask him if he would come on the channel and sort of digress about what he wrote about, which was basically the whole process from design, manufacturing and delivery of the kits. And we spoke about exactly that. So I really hope you find it an interesting interview. Welcome to the channel for the very first time, former CEO Duncan Fraser. Hi Duncan, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me during the summer holidays. We've got lots to discuss, and I was particularly interested in the post that you put out on LinkedIn recently, when you answered some questions about the shirt design. Mm-hmm. And you're quite right. I think there has been a very mixed reaction to the new shirt. I think it's starting to grow on people now. Yeah. But when it was released, it was definitely a bit of Marmite, let's put it that way. So let's talk about the whole process of shirt design, manufacture, delivery. Can I ask you, roughly, how long does it take, the process, from actually getting it designed to then actually being delivered to the club?
I would suggest that that process is probably in the region of 14 months.
Okay.
The reason for that incredibly long lag time is what you've got to recognise is that, particularly with a worldwide brand like Adidas, they will have slots in the manufacturing areas throughout the world to actually process and manufacture these shirts. And so to have them delivered in the time period of, say, 14 months, you're going to have sign off a minimum 12 months before delivery. And then on top of that, you are going to get that one slot when those shirts are produced. And it's also not a case of changing your numbers regularly. It really is a situation where you've really got to commit to your numbers and levels of stock you're going to purchase. So it is a very, very long time frame. And that is, I think, what people probably don't see out there now, just down to the sheer volumes of shirts, particularly home shirts that are purchased.
When it comes to Adidas and the club, do Adidas actually send the club a number of ideas or concepts first? Or do they send them one design and say, right, this is what you're getting? How does that work?
No, Adidas's relationship has always been one of coming up with probably 3 or 4 designs.
Okay.
That they have come up with. Now, the reality of that situation is you'll always be aware, and it's really important to recognise this at the start, Ali. With Adidas, what you've always recognised is there's going to be that Adidas badge, there's going to be the club badge, and there's going to be those 3 stripes. And those are non-negotiable from everybody's perspective. The only major changes, therefore, is when you have your sponsor's logo in the front.
Yeah.
Where you're looking at around the collar area or the piping. And therefore, when Aberdeen see these, they'll be very aware of what they've actually done in the past 2-3 years. And what they'll want to avoid, as all clubs will, is a kit that looks very similar to one that's come out in that time period. So you're always going to find that the variety on the home shirt is going to be limited to certain areas.
Do sponsors get involved in design and decision making?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The process has to be limited to a very, very select few people.
Okay.
During my time, the people that would have been involved was, at that time, Stephen Gunn was director of football operations. So he would have been involved. Jason Hill, as the retail guru he is, would have been one other. And you would have had the manager and the kit man involved.
Oh, really?
Less so on the first team kit, but more on the second team kit. And I'll maybe come back to that in a minute as to why. But that would have been the number of people that would have been involved, because it is so incredibly important to keep this tight. You've seen it yourself, Ali, alleged leaks of kits in the past and all the rest of it. And Adi are like clubs very much want the launch event to be something special. And in fairness, I thought the club pulled off a really good launch event a couple of weeks back. And, with a red and white kit and our Adidas design, one of the things you have noticed is Aberdeen have gone slightly away from everything being white. Concentrated on the predominant red, but have been willing to give away white on part of it. And again, that's all part and parcel of having a really long-term relationship with one particular manufacturer.
You mentioned there about the manager getting involved. I would never have thought for the life of me that the manager would get involved in kit design.
Not so much kit design, but the manager will certainly at one point in time would have had an input, not so much to the actual design, but of the away kit, of the colour of that away kit.
Ah, okay.
Because the ironic aspect to this, Ali, is that when Aberdeen first went with Adidas, the best kit a manager will tell you, or most people will tell you, is an all-white kit.
Yeah.
Great, it makes the players look bigger.
Yeah.
On night games, it makes it a lot easier to see them and identify them. The problem is it never sells shirts, as we found out. The beautiful first design with Adidas, it was a real Real Madrid. It was just a reverse of a Real Madrid with red. Everybody loved it, but people tended not to buy it. The other people that don't like an all-white kit are kit men and parents, because you can't always get them all that clean.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from, Ali. The manager may have input. I'm not always saying they did have, certainly did at one point, but they may have input into the second kit in terms of how they see this visually from a playing perspective. And I think what Aberdeen have done really well in recent years is they've probably taken Adidas's approach towards this, which is to say, actually, the more bold you are with away kits, the better you tend to sell. It might bring mixed reviews, but they tend to sell very well. And I think you've seen that in the last couple of years with Aberdeen. And if anybody wants an example of an away kit which took off in an incredible way and was seen as risky, even for that club, you remember Real Madrid with Adidas went all pink.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Now that has sold more away kits up for any club in any time in football history.
Really?
And really that was about, and Adi had come to us and said, you know what, you might not want to go down that particular route, but you do tend to find the more visual the second kit, the more of those you're likely to sell. Because the other thing with home kits, Ali, they become a little bit like season tickets. People buy them every season. They just do buy them every season. Even if they don't turn up to every game, they almost see a season ticket and a home shirt as their contribution to the club. And it's noticeable when DNA was brought in, that the shirt was included as part of that. So it's all part of that relationship that you have.
One of the things I thought, Duncan, when the kit came out, I wondered if they missed a trick by going back to the 80s when we used to have text or scripture either above or below, and sometimes above and below the actual badge itself.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why There was no scripture on this season strip.
Because the strip, as I say, would have gone into a manufacturer's process and been delivered just towards the end of last season. And the realization would have been that it would have been impossible then to put something onto that strip.
Right.
As
So
simple as that. In the past, Ali, when something like that would have happened, it was just the sheer smaller volume of shirts that we're dealing with in those days.
okay.
That's the big thing. You were not selling anything like the level of replica kits back, did I say, when you and I were lads. It just wasn't the same volume. And a lot of the time, those shirts were also manufactured in the UK. So
Okay.
late changes would have been possible. Shirts tended to be, they came on the market really in sort of September time.
Yeah.
Christmas was the big sell, so you were able to do that. That doesn't mean, and I don't know the answer to this, that the actual players' kit this season, I don't know if that might reflect the fact that Scottish Cup winners in 2025. And a couple of other points worth noting is Aberdeen will work with Addy on other ranges that might come up during the year,
Yeah.
and they will
Okay.
also work with other producers, the retro kit people
Yeah.
and all those stuff. And they might very well look to have specific shirt designs around this season's kit with something embroidered on it. I mean, I don't know if that will be the case, but that might yet happen.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised because the club are, as I say, the club are sharp in this area.
Yeah, they certainly are. Okay. All right, Duncan, let's talk a little bit about yourself. What you up to these days?
Listen, I've spent the best part now. Um, I'm still involved in football. I came into it 23 years ago and I'm still involved. I'm still doing some stuff for UEFA, but I'm back in the city working pretty much full time. I still get involved for certain things when UEFA ask me to. I still do match delegate missions. Football through UEFA took me to all 55 countries in Europe
Hmm.
over the years, and that's been a lot of fun and a lot of good things. I'm still getting phone calls regularly to ask for assistance or advice, and I'm always going to give that. I'm always going to give that to people. I love the game. I love the fact that the Dons are doing well. It was a really, really, really special moment for us all because I was fortunate. I saw the five cup final victories in the 1980s. I didn't think we would keep doing that, but even in my time at the club, I always recognised we should be winning cups regularly.
Yeah.
I think the league now, without being defeatist, I think if you could somehow get a squad together, if you could actually keep that squad together over Christmas without it being decimated. But you know as well as I do, Ali, that if Freedom contract existed now in 1983, the Cup Winners' Cup team would never have been together,
Yeah.
and actually would have been decimated soon afterwards. So the game has changed immeasurably, but I'm just delighted when the Dons won the cup. I think the city turned out in fantastic numbers, and you tend as you get older to forget 35 years was a long time
Yeah.
ago. So I think it
Yeah.
was a really special day. I think all of those involved in the club, many of whom I still know, um, I was just delighted for Dave because it hasn't been an easy process for him at times, and he's continued to put not just money but considerable sums. He might not
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that, but it is,
Yeah.
and time into the club. So I think everybody connected with it deserves it. So I'm always speaking to people, doing things, picking up new things. Part of my time with UEFA, a lot of it was about developing national associations. In fact, I worked in Austria. That was one of the five I dealt with, and just implementing good practice and trying to implement good practice. The problem always with football is that short-term necessity over what you really want to do. And I think in this social media world we live in, it's not always, everybody thinks clubs should communicate more, but it's not always easy to get those messages across. So I try to work with clubs, are faced, as you will as well, with challenging situations, how you get those messages across. But,
Mm.
you know, 23 years, I don't think I'll ever not be involved in the game. And at the right time, when I step back from work, I'd certainly want to do some sort of non-executive role in the game more. Just hand my knowledge, what's up in this brain of mine, back to other people and let them decide what they want to do with that. They might just ignore it. They might want to use it. But, having been involved in some difficult situations over the years, really difficult and challenging ones over the years, you learn a lot from that. So and what you guys are doing independently, getting messages across in the club, speaking to you guys, using you as an outlet is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on, Duncan. Thank you so much for coming on, and particularly giving us the insights into the shirts and the manufacturing and the design and how it all works. So I'm very grateful that you came on, and I'd love to get you on again soon.
Absolutely. In the meantime, you enjoy yourself. Look after those boys of yours.
I will.
And keep fighting the battle, Ali.
I will, mate. I will. It's lovely to see you. Enjoy your weekend. Bye,
Thank
mate.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you, Duncan. ABTV is also sponsored by Craig International, a globally recognised procurement company with offices all over the world, from the US to Canada, the Middle East to the Far East, Australia, and closer to home in Europe. I suggest you take a close look at eBuy, their digital platform which gives you direct access to their procurement teams and clients, making it straightforward for you to discover and win more business. If you're interested, get in touch with me and I will put you in touch with them. As always, thank you to everybody at Craig International for their continued support as well. Right. I think it's about time we got you on. Oh, look, it changes colour. I didn't even know it did that. How cool is that? Oh, the wee things in life, eh? Oh, wow, there's lots of you on tonight. Right, let's get through it before we get on Yumi Tulane. Colin Gale is here and says, I hope you're all having a great summer. Cameron Young says, fit like Ali, great to have the shows back on again. Wasn't expecting that signing this afternoon. Hopefully a few more in as well. I've seen on X that David Turnbull is meant to be incoming. Ryan Ellington is wishing everybody a good evening, as is David Horn. He says he can't wait to see all these new signings. I just hope they all gel quickly. Colin came back to say it's going to be interesting to see the final size of the first team squad. If you include Babbage and Loban, we are standing at 31 at the moment, with perhaps a couple more to come in. Angela Hamilton is here. Hi Angela, how are we doing? She's wishing everyone a good evening, as is David Gold, Rally Vids, as is Neil Sinclair, as is Kirstine, as is Kevin Tom. Mark Smith says, Jings heavens, help me, Bob. Still ain't over that cup final. How long has it been now? Roughly 5 weeks. I'm still seeing people post on socials videos from the cup final. I don't think that's going to go away for a long, long time. I'm on a bit of a mission to get my photograph taken with the cup. Derek Ray's here saying, hi Ali and fellow dandies, when we're going to buy a striker? Patience, dear boy, patience. The Mad Ferret is on, wishing you all a good evening. Ian Barron, it says, good to have you back, Ali. Watch the penalties again today to get ready for the show. Does anyone else still feel nervous watching back? Paul Donaldson is saying, good evening. Hope everyone is having a good summer, even though the weather has just been awful. Not here, it hasn't. Can't be bothered says, hi Ali, interested to see these new signings, but it's a bit worrying that we are signing youngsters and our own youth seems below par. It's a very interesting point. So I'm sure that you noticed that the club put out a statement the other day about having to sort of relook at the pathway from the youth academy to the first team, and how they spend £2.2 million a year on the youth academy. Stephen Gunn gave a very interesting interview on Red TV outlining what the plans are going to be. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes, because I must admit, I'm also one where I'm a little bit concerned that we don't appear to be promoting from within. Yes, we've had one or two come through the ranks. I wish them more game time, if I'm being honest. But it appears that most come to the club, get their education, and move on. And as much as I wish these lads nothing but the best, of course, I just sometimes wonder, why are they not good enough to make our first team? Is there an issue there that needs to be addressed? So yeah, time will tell, because at the moment, all of our signings that have come in are obviously all from foreign shores. So, look, there's still plenty of time for the window to shut, so let's see what happens. Hugh Burns is on, wishing you all a good evening. He's impressed with the new signings so far, but he is asking for a new striker and a backup left winger. Gordon Keith Ritchie is also saying that he's very happy with the signings, hoping for more. Sheep on Fire says, good evening, Dandies. Glad to have the show back. Peter Lee says, I went to the club shop to buy the new kit, walked out with a training top instead. David Gall says, I got my home shirt through Abbott DNA. I like it. It would be nice, though, if we had the Scottish Cup winners on it. Well, I hope Duncan was able to sort of shed some light on that for you. Hope you enjoyed that interview with him. Can't Be Bothered says, not a fan of the new kit, was hoping for a red version of the North Sea kit. Hugh Burns is reminding everybody that there will be a third strip coming out soon. Kirstine says, it's not the best new kit, but I got mine free through my DNA membership, so it's a no-brainer, as I've already bought the away kit. Jack's on. How you doing, Jack? Thanks for tuning in. Mark Smith says, don't really care about the shirt design, it's who's wearing it. It's on the pitch that counts. When was the last time you went out to dinner with a wife wearing a Don shirt? Can you imagine? Oh, man. Come on, darling, we're going out for a date. Just going to put on my top. Oh, you're not getting it that night, let me tell you. Neil says, good evening, Dandies. John Grant is also on. Leslie Ross says, I prefer the away kit to be white. Back in the 80s, it was smart looking. John Grant says, looks like we're not going to be using many of our youngsters this season again. Fingers crossed Babbage gets a chance to see how good he is. Hugh Burns has said, he's heard rumours that we've turned down mega offers for Boyd and Babbage and neither are happy with the lack of game time. He says, watch this space. Hugh, we're watching your space, fella. Roddy Keenan is on, wishing you a good evening, as is Fraser Gunn, as is Richard Mickey McMillan. Mark Smith says, just wanted to say how lucky we are to have an owner in Dave Cormack who loves and cares about the club. I don't agree with everything he's done, but just wanted to say thanks. Okay, so that brings me nicely to a wee announcement that I've got to make. So, this coming Wednesday, I am sitting down with Dave Cormack to interview him exclusively for this channel. I've got a lot of questions lined up for him. I reckon Dave and I are going to be chatting for up to an hour. Once we're done, I'll get it edited as quickly as I can and I will get it out on the channel towards the end of next week. And then my idea after that is 24 hours later to come back and do a show where you can react to what Dave had to say. So keep an eye out, but I'm interviewing him this Wednesday afternoon. And I'm absolutely delighted that he said yes to the interview and very grateful to everybody at the football club who have made this interview possible. So look out for that. Kaiser's on. How are we doing, Kaiser? Won the hoops. Says, all right, folks. Kaiser's a little bit concerned about some of the signings. He said they're untried at this level. Are they though? Would you say Portsmouth and Sunderland are not our level? Schalke, not our level? The Dutch Eredivisie? What do you think, mate? West Coast Dawn says, evening to fellow Scottish Cup winners. Can't be bothered says, I don't think Dave likes Bad Boys Inc. How do you know? How do you know? You never know, fella. Xander Moore says I'd be gutted if Boyd left. The Loon deserves game time for us. I agree with that. I want Fletcher to get more game time as well. Dave Methven says, one more winger, 2 strikers and a centre-back, and I think we'll be good to go. Yeah, I think we're okay for centre-backs, aren't we? Tobers, Knuster, Jack. Are we okay there? Stuart Irvin is asking, is there a quality about foreign signings that local players lack? Chilling is on, wishing you a good evening. Bruce Struthers says, if the young players are good enough, they should break through to the first team. Paul Donaldson said, good news about the extra money being invested in Cormack Park, especially the indoor pitch, which we've been needing for a long time. David Gall said, if we are to learn anything from our last venture into the Europa Conference League, it's that we need a big squad. Last time we were threadbare and it showed every time we went back to league duty. Absolutely, mate. Sue says, good evening, Dandies. What have I missed? You've missed an exclusive interview with former CEO Duncan Fraser. Hey. Nicola Beaton said, it's great. More money is coming into Cormack Park. Shows the level of commitment to all teams at the club. Gordon Ronnie says, it's brilliant being Scottish Cup champions. Isn't it just? Right, so as most of you know, the team are currently out in Portugal on their training camp. I understand they're there for the next couple of days and then they're heading back. So lots and lots of really good content being put out on the club's socials. There's a really interesting interview with Yumi Talene, and here's a short soundbite which was put on the club's socials, hence why I can show it. This is what Yumi Talene had to say during the training camp.
I think it's we have some new players into the team, and we always have to working hard and trying to take so many steps as possible in a short time. And when you are together 24/7, it's always good to work with the identity, the behaviors, how we treat each other, the principles of the game. So it's a little bit a kickstart to pushing forward, because we have this 4 weeks now until the first league game, and then you have the 6 games before Europe, and then it's going to be a lot of games. So it's important now that we are clear what we want to achieve and how we want to play, and with what style and identity on the pitch.
Don't forget that ABTV is also sponsored by Quipco International, a manufacturing and repair service company serving the oil and gas industry. Their headquarters are based in Abu Dhabi, which makes them perfectly placed to offer a number of services and products to the Middle East. Their facilities include full CNC machining, downhole equipment, manufacturing and refurbishing. So if you want to get in touch, quipco.com, drop them an email at sales@quipco.com, or you can also give them a call. So if you're in the area and you're looking for any services to help you in the oil and gas industry, my suggestion is you get in touch with Quipco. Right, I'm going to do what we call a little bit of cross-channel promotion. So as some of you know, I have a sister channel called The Accidental Pop Star, where I interview pop stars, both past and present, about their own experience in the music industry, and what I do is compare and contrast my story with theirs. I was really thrilled to have caught up only last week with Daniel Bedingfield, who's had a number of number one hits, sold millions of records all over the world. It's now sitting on the Accidental Pop Star YouTube channel. So if you're into your music, if you want to know a little bit more about fame, how the process works, how the music industry works, just dip your toe, have a wee look. And what I really hope you find interesting is that somebody who has worn the t-shirt, bought the CD, read the book, interviews pop stars. That's where I'm hoping my channel is a little bit more unique to anything else that is out there. So Daniel Bedingfield is currently sitting on the Accidental YouTube Popstar channel. Right, let's get back to your thoughts. Sandra McPherson says, what's with the new mic? Keep seeing the Rangers blue. Yeah, it's just come up. Well, it's not quite a Rangers blue, let's be honest. It's kind of mixed, isn't it? It's more of a light blue than a navy blue. Oh, it's red! Look at that! Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Kaiser says, I'm waiting on a marquee signing, like a Majovsky type. Can't be bothered has said, anyone heard if Yumi had replaced the coach that left during the season? I don't think he did. West Coast Dawn is asking, so is this lad from Sunderland any good? So if you go to the lads at ABZ Podcast, they've done a lowdown interview and they've put out a podcast all about him. So my suggestion is to find out more. In fact, to find out more about all of our signings, go to the lads at ABZ because they've got their pulse, they've got their finger on the pulse. Some really interesting thoughts about the players as well, particularly from the fans. If you go online, a lot of people are suggesting that he will fit our style of play well. Some have said they're a little bit concerned about the physicality of our game. But look, time is going to tell, isn't it? In response to Kaiser's note, Kirsten came back and said, I think we got our marquee signing today. He looks good. Mark Smith has said, what's the thoughts on Ruby being back? Don't like being harsh, but it's a tough business. And for me, he's part of our history, not our future. But this is where I stand with it. I always thought, and I always came on here and said that I believed there was a decent player in Ruby. But I just felt sometimes he was a bit of a headless chicken. There were some personal issues that were going on towards the time when he asked to come off. And then obviously he went on loan. And we have to take that into consideration, that he's a young lad from foreign shores that came to Aberdeen on his own. His family were all back home. He was providing for his family. He was looking after his family. And that comes, I'm sure you'll appreciate, with pressure. So from what I understand, he had a very good loan spell. And I wish the lad nothing but the best because I do believe there's a player there. I don't think he's going to start many games. I think that our defensive partnership will be Knusters and Tobers. I think the two will play. I think depending on our opposition, Jack might fit in there, maybe play like what we saw in the Scottish Cup final, depending on the opposition. We might play like that in Europe, I don't know, away from home. Time will tell, as I keep saying. But it's down to Ruby. It's down to the application and the attitude that he puts into training. And it's up to him to prove that he's worthy of starting games. So I really hope the lad does well. Skur says, Kjartan will be our new Ramadani. More yellows than goals and assists. Neil Sinclair, what was the name of that? So it's the ABZ podcast. ABZ. Skuska says, he's delighted that Ruby's back. Hope his head is better. Can't be bothered has said Gavin Malloy probably used as a backup for the new left back. Yeah. Right, guys, how long have we done? Whoa, we've done nearly 40 minutes. Right, I'm going to call it a night. So, look out for that interview with the chairman. That's coming up. As I said, that's going to come up this week. Sorry that the camera's frozen. There we go. And then I'll try and get that out. I'll try and turn it around as quickly as I can. And then we'll come back 24 hours later and do sort of a reaction show to the interview. So thank you as always for coming on. I really hope you've enjoyed the show. It's great to be back. Enjoy your summer. And I'll see you again towards the end of this week. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Stand free.